team in the van? Any insights? Any inspirations?
Yeah.
What's that?
Tronoclops.
The Tronoclops is, yes.
Chonoclops.
Tronoclops is, whatever the plural is.
Chonoclops champs.
Tronoclops champs.
We
Good
have
one.
seen them twice on our watch.
Just wait till you see its relative, Chonax.
Oh,
Ah.
what is that?
Chonax is a shallower water.
Okay. Well, now I gotta look that up.
Anglerfish. Chonax, yeah.
I'm imagining like a Pokemon evolution.
Yeah. Chonax is one of my favorites, but typically you don't find it this deep. It's a little bit shallower.
How do you spell that, Steve?
Chaunax. It's in the same family.
Oh yeah, Chonax fish.
And it has a notorious frowny face.
Oh,
That'll be good.
that's so
See what we got.
adorable.
Oh, Chonax.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's in the
grumpy fish.
the sea toad family. That's a great name.
For those trying to find it, it's spelled Chaunax. Chonax.
And then just to answer that question, the
Yeah.
Hawaiian dictionary describes microbes. I don't think there's a specific word, but more so maybe just on this function. But mu ike ole ia e kamaka, which mu is basically, I mean, from what I understand in the interpretation, it's like a group or a gathering that isn't be able to be seen with the naked eye.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I think Dr. Kiana Frank too, with her work, especially in the Hawaiian community stuff, that might have a better idea. So maybe we can consult her on that one.
I like that idea.
For sure.
All right.
Oh, if
Can
this
you
is right, actually.
send me
Cool.
that name?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Things
problem.
inconsistent about this.
And I also have a proposal
Yes.
for a name for the group, for the watch. Let me go pull it up real fast.
Well, even if we don't name our team after the Chonax, I think I'm gonna have to get a T-shirt with that on it.
For sure. Yeah, I like Jake's comment. It does look like a Pokemon like evolution. Okay, so I was looking in a publication, it's called Olelo no Eo, and it was published in a lot of the knowledge was gathered by one of our renowned cultural historians, Mariko Pukui. And she went around basically doing a series of ethnographies with different elders from different communities as a means to preserve language, and some of the inherent knowledge that is preserved within it.
Yeah.
So Olelo no Eo are basically these are going to be these very poetic sayings, and so I was reading the introduction again. It was saying that the ability for these words to be captured as like just short phrases and stuff like that is testament to their to the inherent importance and like veiled meanings. So there's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of contextual knowledge that is condensed into these poetical sayings.
Yeah.
So that I'm looking at is he puko'a kani aina. He puko'a kani aina, and that translates to a coral reef that grows into an island. And the interpretation is a person beginning in a small way that gains steadily until he or she becomes firmly established.
Mm.
So I know that the other team was Hui Huakai, but I think we got the theme of the coral going on over here. So
Yeah, there's no reason not to have more than one coral.
yeah. Seeing as how we also have a coral expert in our group.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways.
Maybe like one of the world's most amazing coral experts.
For sure.
World famous and viral this week.
Hardcore.
Oh,
Sorry.
Anyway, can you say
I'm
the
just trying to
the
get
name
by.
again?
He puko'a kani aina. We could also shorten it to Hui PK Okina E.
I don't know that that's much shorter in my brain.
Yeah, sorry. Anyways, puko'a kani aina. So puko'a is gonna be the coral itself,
Yeah.
and then kani. I mean, well, kani is also like to like resound, but then aina is basically the general term for like land.
Land, yeah.
Mm.
I like that suggestion.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's a way to make it more of like, is there like a community or like a group or like a smaller contained? Because land feels like so big and expansive. And we're kind of like a core, you know, team here.
I'm going to jump back into some other resources and I will get back to you.
Cool, cool.
All right. Wow.
Yeah.
So for folks watching at home, you're seeing a quad view of a lot of blue water. And if you were to see on the side the Grafana data feed, you would see that we're at about a little shallower than 2,200 meters. We're on our way up. I'm not sure what our ascent rate is, but we're aiming for 15 meters a minute. So you can do the math. It'll take us a little while to get up to the surface. But you're welcome to stay with us while we ascend together.
And sorry about that, gang. And then just as a reminder too, so we are in the Papahānaumokuākea Marine National Monument. There's a plethora of information and resources about there about the multifaceted sort of history and preservation methods that are being employed within the monument. So one website you can go to that is put together by NOAA is papahānaumokuākea.gov. papahānaumokuākea.gov. The second one is put together by one of the co-trustee entities, and that's going to be the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So you can go to OHA. Let me go take a look real fast, but it's basically you can Google search Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Papahānaumokuākea, and check out all of the awesome resources that are over there as well. I think they have information on the permitting process. They have a review of some of the other permitted accesses, the accesses that were gathered, or that were reports on permitted activities within the monument on a yearly basis. And I think that the most recent one that I saw was done in 2019. And so, yep, that's going to be www.oha.org /Papahānaumokuākea.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yep. And of course, please follow us and check us out on for Ocean Exploration Trust, nautiluslive.org. A lot of resources on how some of our community members or other interested professionals might be getting involved. Yeah.
Yeah, especially opportunities for fellowships and internships.
Yes.
Which we learned about yesterday's dive that is a really great way for people to come into ocean exploration from a variety of different backgrounds.
That was, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's not, you don't just have to be a marine scientist to do this kind of work. So we've got people coming from all kinds of backgrounds, and OET helps facilitate that with these internships and fellowships.
Yeah, absolutely. Kalama, can you come read this and see if this is appropriate to read aloud?
Yes.
And thanks for our audience watching live, sending in suggestions for potential team names and other observations. Really appreciate it.
Is it? Oh, really?
Is that our current HiPAC view?
Yeah, this is the zoomed out HiPAC. This is
this
is the seamount.
Jeff, could you pull up HiPAC on the channel 3? Thank you.
It's clumsy, huh?
We mapped up here earlier today.
In that big white gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have all of it loaded in, but we did actually map this entire. You can see the feature here, the lobe that came out there, and then also this entire lobe as well. So
yeah,
pretty much to the plane.
But this is a great view for our audience to see kind of the overall structure of the seamount, and then we were just exploring one little section of it, kind of the northern flank of this ancient volcano, Gio.
Yeah, what was the shallowest point of this site, seamount?
Oh, I don't
the site that we were on, or the seamount?
The entire seamount.
I don't have that right now.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. Let's see if it's in here.
Looks quite shallow. Let me see
I
if
have
I
it in my
can get
notes.
that.
not sure if this is a Jeff or Jess question, but would it be possible to pan?
It's actually both of us.
Okay, it's probably both. Would it be possible to adjust the camera slightly in channel 1 to expose more blue water?
Tilt up and rack out.
Yeah. Yeah, sure thing.
Let's see. I have a depth for the shallowest part of Don Quixote is around a little shallower than 1400.
Okay, that's still deeper than I thought.
I'll even get rid of the vignette. There you go.
I don't think we need to zoom necessarily. Gives us more chance of seeing if we're a little zoomed
No,
in.
it's just that, see, if you look in the very bottom corners, that's the vignette of the housing in the lens.
Gotcha.
And I just get rid of that so that it's not so annoying.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff and Jess.
Yeah, I think the shallowest seamount that we will be investigating in this region is named Tamana. That has a summit depth of a little more than 900. So hopefully we'll get to that in a couple days.
So you can see
Looking forward to that dive. Looking forward to that dive. I don't know if it will get to that depth, but...
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting discussion of kind of what our strategy is for those shallower seamounts. And if we
Yeah,
want
because you start to get carbonate and things that aren't useful. Well, I mean, so so carbonates can have crust on them too, right? Would you expect the carbonate microbial community to be different than the basalt?
Yes.
Altered, yeah.
There'll be some similarities. Again, there's some kind of generalist species that don't really care what hard substrate they're attached to. And there'll be some that are specific to the carbonate, as well as some that are specific to the altered basalts. Oops, excuse me.
Yeah, so since we will be recovering the vehicles here before the 12 watch, that does mean you will miss the 12 to 4 watch this time.
That's correct.
That is correct. However, they will be back tomorrow, most likely, at the next dive. Yeah, I guess that raises a question too. What do we do when we're not on watch? Maybe we could go around and describe, do we do anything when we're not?
What I wish I could be doing and what I actually have to be doing are very different things. I wish I could be sleeping sometimes, but I'm usually doing data entry and processing samples, doing some logging paperwork. But yeah.
Yeah, this dive is gonna, as a scientist working on some of the samples, as soon as the dive ends, I need to be there on the back deck collecting samples because they're temperature sensitive and processing them as soon as I can. So that 12 to 4 time period for me, this tomorrow morning, will be very busy, especially because I'll need to turn things around to get ready for the next dive being recovered.
Yeah, quick.
I think the next dive will be relatively short also.
Yeah, we have been very, very fast at processing samples. It's nice and easy. So there's a very distinct difference in processing samples out here, even rocks or corals, than processing samples where we were last year, for example, or earlier this year on the West Coast. A lot of less biomass, so a lot fewer brittle stars and associates and things. You know, there's this area of the ocean is pretty nutrient poor, so it doesn't really support a lot of life on the seafloor, macrofaunal and megafaunal life. So we don't have as much sorting to do as some of the more productive areas where we've worked.
Interesting. You kind of think of the tropics as being rich with life, but sometimes it's not.
Diversity and biomass, are two different things. But you can have a very high diversity, but low biomass or low abundance for sure. Yeah.
Jeff, with an F, what do you do when you're not on watch?
Nap. System maintenance. There's always a few little things that break and need to be tweaked or smacked around, or Sometimes it's as simple as unplugging something and plugging it back in. And then, yeah, you do try and get your naps in so you're not too tired. There's always interesting conversations on board. You have a boat full of very interesting people with very diverse backgrounds and very diverse histories, and there have been some, and not just this particular cruise, but every cruise. I've sat up here with Rennie before, and we've had some incredible conversations. We're both bass players, believe it or not. Yeah.
Hey, I play bass as well.
There you go. See, and it can be so fun and entertaining to just get to know people. You know, we're all here for this one purpose, but we're also very, very different, unique, and interesting. So, and try not to eat too much. That's probably the big thing out here is we are very well taken care of, as we're all sitting here snacking on something right now.
Yep.
If you hear little munching sounds, yeah. Jake, are you able to unmute your mic, or do you have?
Oh yeah, I'm unmuted now.
Okay. What do you do when you're not on watch?
I mean, I nap. I eat chocolates. No, but I also like I'll work out once a day, quick workout. And then yeah, I mean, I always like to have conversations as well. There's so much to learn from everyone on board, so it's really amazing how much knowledge there is with just everyone in their different fields and their experiences. And, that's probably my favorite part about being out here.
We're all really focusing on the leisure stuff, but I know that there's a lot of duties off watch as well. So feel free to describe those. Jess, are you free to unmic or go on mic?
No, I'm on SPL. Sorry. Yes, hello.
Yeah. Hey, what do you do when you're not on watch? Any leisure or duties?
Leisure or duty?
Sounds like a bad truth or dare. Leisure or duty? Leisure.
Leisure, please. I like to play cards with other folks on the boat, on the ship. So we play a bunch of cribbage or just random card games.
Yeah, we do.
That's actually a really fun way to get to know people as well, to get out their inner shark. So.
Jess is a shark.
Whoa.
Be careful playing cards with Jess.
Very possibly true.
What about you, Lindsay? What do you do?
Well, I think it's Rennie's turn.
Okay.
We're going clockwise here.
Leisure or duty?
Leisure
or duty? I'll go leisure. No, I occasionally work out, like Jake said.
Yeah.
Make sure to take some time to enjoy the environment we're in, especially since the weather's so nice temperature-wise, and it hasn't been rainy or anything, or too windy. So watch sunsets and things like that. Have great conversations, and the navigation team is also the mapping team. So when we're on watch, we acquire the multi-beam data and occasionally have to process depending on the volume that we've collected. And we're sailing with a mapping coordinator who's been great. Takes care of most of that, but yeah, have a little bit of that duty to do and other maintenance things.
Cool, thanks. And Kalameu.
Is it raining outside? Is that what we're seeing in the winch cam?
It might be water coming off of the wire.
Oh, yeah,
just as we reel it in, but it could be rain. I can't tell.
What do you do when you're not on watch with us?
Eat way too much. Nah. Aside from that, well, some great conversations, getting to know everybody, but my role generally as the Olelo Hawaii liaison is to conduct the interactions in Olelo Hawaii. But I've also found, I mean, the expedition and just meeting everybody has been so inspiring that I think that at the end of the day I have more questions and answers. So sometimes I'll kind of like delve back into some of the into the documents from the monument just to like get a better feel of like some of the familiarize myself with more of like the cultural aspect and learning. Like I don't know a lot. I wouldn't say that I know a lot about the monument in that way. So I've been trying to do a lot of like, I guess, personal research into how I can sort of best represent some of our communities and really honor the opportunity and the privilege to be here, which has been afforded by OET, the Cultural Working Group, OHA, NOAA, our families at home and our communities, and kind of actually miss them too a bunch of the time. So yeah, I mean, otherwise, and I'm really excited. So, and I've been, this past week particularly, I've been trying to just sort of find the groove. And so a big mahalo to everybody for definitely creating a like a really safe and open learning environment. So I hope to be, now that we're kind of settled and getting into the groove of things, hope to be able to like, go talk story, go hang out with everybody and just see sort of what the different roles look like. Just so that we can get a first-hand experiences and be able to translate that better to the kids at home.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and again,
way too much.
And eating,
Yeah.
keeping from eating. This is a theme. Yes, someone says it must be beautiful out on deck at night looking at the stars. Yeah. My off-watch duties include, similar to Kalamehu, the facilitation of the interactions, the live ship-to-shore interactions, and those are available free to register for online. We do have limited spots available, especially in the typical school hours of North America. Those have pretty much filled up. So if you are a homeschool group or a educator somewhere else around the world that would like to sign up for one of those, or in Hawaii, there might be some afternoon slots still available. Definitely feel free to go to the education portal on nautiluslive.org. You can still sign up for those free 30-minute live ship-to-shore interactions, and you can get to talk with me or one of my fellow science communication fellows, as well as other folks aboard. We like to rope in our colleagues to talk about their roles on the ship. And that takes up a lot of time. We also, my team is responsible for filtering through hundreds and hundreds of photos that the data loggers are capturing. Those are screen grabs from our live video feeds. So Steve is constantly doing some magic over there that takes photos and sends them to our computer, and we get to sort through the ones that are in focus and out of focus. And eventually we will be, I say eventually, within the next couple days, we'll be putting out some of the first galleries from these first dives in our Lu'ua Ea Ahiki Ika Papaku expedition. And yeah, I think that's mostly what takes up my time outside of watch. Did I say something funny? Oh.
Hey, Jeff, could I make a quick request, please?
Certainly.
So I know that I had mentioned those two websites earlier that had to do with OHA and the monument, but I was wondering if we could put those up, if we could put
that computer back up on?
Yes,
Let me
please.
see if I can find that.
Just so that the viewers at home can kind of just get a better view of what I'm talking about.
I'm going to have to steal one. I guess we don't need you.
That should be a Psi computer.
I think I'm silent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There it is.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Yang. So, if anybody, thank you, Jeff. So if anybody want to check out the websites that I was talking about earlier, we can go just take a quick scroll through. It'll be on satellite feed number 3, but over here we're on the Office of Hawaiian Affairs page for Papahanaumokuakea. Pretty accessible, pretty easy to navigate. We have a few tabs up here at the top. So in terms of like foundations, some of the directives over here of the monument. Some other directions in town. They have educational pathways, health outcome, well, some other stuff that has to do with OHA and stuff, but I'm going to go back to the monument, sorry. So just some general information over here. Michael Pomai, this is a webinar about a document that came out in terms of this. This report was a product of about 10 or so years worth of conversations with Native Hawaiian communities in terms of like trying to get a better sense of the cultural aspect of contributing to comprehensive management within the monument. So this is a link to the webinar here, and then the document itself is actually also available for a download. So, yep. And then under there, we're going to see the what's in a name, and this actually has to do with a subcommittee of the cultural working group. That's a nomenclature group, and so they deal more so with the naming of some of various features, some organisms that are found within the monument and other things. This is some general history in terms of like the establishment of the monument and the expansion. Right here we have an introductory cultural briefing video. And then the journey to Pihemanu is a review of another expedition that was taken up there. These 4 green tabs are pretty important. These are the resource materials. And so I talked a little bit earlier about some of the permitted activities, annual reports. And so the monument or OHA will put these out yearly. And so then they're framed within a cultural context, but they also have a review of the collaborations and various types of multidisciplinary research that happen within the monument. There is, and then this tab it has to do with World Heritage nomination. You guys can go take a look at. Yeah, and then under there, the World Heritage Inscription Executive Summary. And these are some of the original compositions that were written for the monument. And so these are compositions that are mainly appropriate for use within, more so within the monument, or that have to do with the intent of certain aspects of the expedition, such as the ROV dives, like the one that we're on right now. So just a little bit of a introduction to this one page, and that's again with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And then now we're shifting over to the Papahana Mokuakea, the actual monument page that's put out by NOAA. So you guys can see over here we have our home page, a little bit of context, news. Actually, and let's go to the news page. You can go check it out. One of our onboard education coordinator, Andy Collins, who was on the last watch, was just sharing that the sanctuary, the monument is looking to achieve National Marine Sanctuary designation. He gave us a little bit more information about it, and he said that there is going to be opportunities for public comment, and I believe that that's open already and will be open through the end of January. So if anybody out there in Hawaii, any sort of expertise on the monument, any sort of background or context, please feel free to go check that out. Sorry, I can't really locate it right now. Oh yeah, right there you go.
Yeah, and even people that don't have context, I think, are welcome to submit, or don't have maybe personal experience of the monument, but have followed along and agree that this should be protected.
That's correct. Thank you. Yeah, so feel free to check it out. Some of the other programs that's going on over here, right? Some of the permitting information, science and research that goes on over there. The educational tab is actually one of my favorite ones. There's a lot of different resources that are available for home use for educational purposes, and they cover everything from elementary to, I believe, high school. Yep. Let's go take a look at it while we're over here. Yeah. So yeah, feel free, gang, while you guys are out there. A lot of multimedia resources for all ages. And yeah, that's us. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thank you, Jeff.
No worries. Put you guys on camera. Wave and say hi.
Oh, Beth.
Jess, are you in the middle of a conversation, or can you hop back on a SPL?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, no worries. We're just curious because I think we saw that you got to be in a pretty pivotal role on deck for the launch. I think it was yesterday. Can you describe a little bit about just the efforts that go into launching and recovering the vehicles?
Yeah. Yes. So on the back deck, in order to recover or launch the vehicles, we have a whole bunch of deck operations that are going on. So we use the winch and crane in tandem. We have, well, not in tandem, sequentially, in series. And then we also have, a coordination of kind of a deck chief who's coordinating or directing all the efforts. You have people for, if you're recovering, in our case, you're going to see people hooking into Argus with these specialized hooks that can kind of latch on and allow us to kind of these 2 points of contact, or these two, what's the word for it?
Taglines?
Yeah, like to the tuggers, but it's like 2 stabilizing points on deck and then 1 with the tether of that tether going to Hercules. So basically we're just trying to get these vehicles on board as safely as possible. And so so either you can, there's a variety of roles that you take on deck, and then you have someone, the deck chief, usually Mark, but also Rennie and myself. I've been kind of training towards those roles as well past few years. But Mark is the deck chief, and he'll be directing the operations, or whoever is designated as the deck chief for that launch or recovery.
And as deck chief, how does that change your perspective of what's happening during the launch or recovery?
Yeah, so the person that's appointed as who's directing the operations, usually you're not physically, you're telling people as to what to do. You're looking for safety. That's kind of like your #1 priority, is safety of the people, and then making sure that the vehicles get on safely. And you're also in communication with the van and the bridge as well. So there's a communication aspect that you have to be mindful of.
And I know the last few recoveries, and maybe the launches as well, there have been some megafauna, really, like whales and sharks and tuna swimming around. Is that ever distracting to the team that's working so hard to focus on these big machines?
Yeah, I mean, there have been some creatures out there, but you know, when there are deck operations underway, that's your full focus, and because you don't want to take your eye off of what's going on, and then that compromise your safety or someone else's safety because you're looking off at a whale or something, you know. Yeah. But the whales are very cool, and afterwards you get to look at them and see the spectacle.
Yeah, they usually stick around a little while.
Yeah.
They're a lot less distracting than the people reacting to them.
Yes, than the people yelling, look, there's a whale, while we're trying to launch a vehicle.
I thought they were cheering us on launching the vehicles
I know,
the other day.
that happened, and I was on the winch, and I was like,
what is going on?
Right now? Because we're, like Jess said, we're so laser focused on what we're doing that.
Yeah. We should be up there cheering you on.
Yeah.
Way to go. Way to use that crane.
Yeah, we could use that moral support.
The moral support is nice, maybe like before or after, but during it's more alarming to have people yelling in the background. But yeah, no, and spirit is always great too.
Thanks, Jess. Jake, you've been pretty involved with down there on the deck. What's your favorite and your least favorite role in launching and recovering?
My least favorite would probably have to be when we're launching and putting the tether over the side. It's can be quite strenuous, and you sometimes have to do it very quick because the Hercules pilot will jet away from the ship pretty quickly, and so you have to go hand over hand with the tether line into the water without dropping it in, as to not create any loops or have it hit the ship or anything. So that's a pretty tough one. And I do enjoy using the air tuggers. They're pretty cool.
Ooh,
they're fun.
Can you describe what the air tuggers are?
They're basically just a little kind of winch that pulls in a tagline that's attached to Argus that kind of stabilizes Argus on recovery. Because we get some kind of pendulum motion with the when Argus is coming out with the A-frame over the deck, especially if there's like heavy swells. So we just pull on a lever and it pulls in the tagline as Argus is coming and swinging back onto the deck. And yeah.
Sounds like fun. Rennie, you've been doing a lot of deck work with the launching and recovering, and you got some special crane training. What advice do you have for folks who might want to follow in those footsteps and operate cranes off of a boat?
Oh yeah, well, a lot of us here just kind of happen into those roles. That's what's required. I'm sure there's some viewers who are aware that everyone, like the pilots, for example, the ROV pilots aren't just sitting here piloting the vehicles, they're actually maintaining the vehicles. And so there's few spots on a ship, few bunks, and so roles have to be kind of doubled up. So in that similar vein, a lot of people whose career paths may not have normally brought them into operating a crane, get kind of that kind of training. As far as if that's your primary line of work, I don't have much knowledge of that, but I do know that there's lots of trades that involve that kind of work. It's crane specific or also just general. And then there's also just maritime work on a ship, starting from a lower position and working your way into more seasoned positions.
Is it fun to operate the crane?
It's so fun. There's a bunch of levers in front of you, and you've got to deal with depth perception and making sure everyone's safe and bringing loads on and off. I think one of the most fun and most challenging is, when we're loading on something that's on a dock. So the boat still has a bit of motion in port, depending on the port, sometimes more than others. And yeah, being able to pick something up without dragging it around and vice versa, getting it off the ship and landing it without anybody getting hurt and landing the payload safely. Sometimes those food stores are stacked pretty high on the pallets.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for those loose cantaloupes falling down.
And I mentioned Ocean Networks Canada, but we've been doing work with them now I've been on 6 cruises with them, and they have a lot of gear. We fill up the back deck. Viewers are probably familiar with that who've watched, and yeah, loading that on and off is actually a lot of fun. Just sitting up in the crane and bringing things on deck all day. Takes a whole day.
There's always a fight as to who's going to, well, there's not really a fight.
Yeah.
Who's going to run the crane when provisions are brought over, because
You got to camp out up there.
yeah, if you're on the crane, that means you're not standing in the passageway passing food to the next person standing you. So yeah.
That's right.
It was also funny earlier this year as we were mobilizing, and did everybody have to go through crane training? Everybody had to kind of like get recertified. And
yeah, a lot of the primary
the
crane people and some
primary
up-and-comers.
Yeah, and there was one up-and-comer. Actually, I don't know if they were an up-and-comer, but I just remember getting up one morning at about 6:30. They were up on the crane with Mark, like doing little crane calisthenics.
Yeah.
Picking things up and putting them into a row pack and moving it over here, and it was entertaining to watch, but everybody had to go through it early, and not video. Video does not get to play with the crane or play on the deck. We are up in the vans all the time.
Yeah.
We never get to go down there, but yeah, it was fun watching crane gymnastics or calisthenics or Olympics or whatever they were earlier this year.
Sometimes until you're doing it, it seems kind of innocuous, but the winch and the A-frame is, I think, a more difficult task than the crane. The A-frame allows the wire to be dropped, over the aft of the ship directly into the water, so it has to be out for that to happen. So there's a funny little dance that we have to put the A-frame out while allowing enough, just the right amount of payout of the winch. So it's just kind of hovering off the deck and not too high and not sliding around or stuck on the deck and then dragged. It's kind of, it's like a 2-joystick video game with real consequences.
A good description of it there, Rennie.
Yeah.
With the real consequences.
Right.
That's a good point, because you know, in the sea states that we can launch and recover in, especially recoveries, because if you get a weather system that comes up, you want the winch operator to be smooth as possible, so that doesn't roll Argus around.
Sea states are definitely, and nighttime, but mostly sea states kind of increase the chances of, well, just there's a lot of forces happening, a lot of rolling around, and yeah, we have to be extra vigilant. We had some fun. I don't think you were out for that, Jess. Were you out earlier this year? No.
No.
Shakedown?
Nope.
No.
I only came for the birthday
For a couple
celebration.
days. Oh, right, that's right. Crane, yeah. I had to crane some stuff on and off of another boat while we were both out, so that was fun. 2 different surfaces moving at different.
2 different moving vessels.
Yeah, that was a blast. And a couple of the loads were people's luggage. Like, oh, it's a bad impression. Oncomers or, hey, you're the guy that dropped my bag. No, but we got everything on.
No tip for you.
Okay, you can just mark a spot on high pack and go down and get it.
Yeah, that's it. We'll come back for that.
Very salty clothes after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had a fuel barge on the crane side, so I had to take the yellow crane's manifold off and land it on a boat on the opposite side of the yellow crane. So it was like way over there. That was fun. Crane Olympics.
Why was it 2 vessels? Why was it our vessel, some other vessel?
We were in Port Angeles, I think.
Oh, okay.
And the tides were very extreme. We weren't able to be docked, so we were out at anchor. So we had a fuel barge on one side, on-signers coming on the other, sending and receiving goods on that little boat.
I see. Crane Olympics.
And I've seen this a number of times, but ultimately when the ROVs are on deck and the scientists are eagerly waiting around with their bowls, what's the signal, or what are you waiting for before you can finally go touch your samples? Oh, I'm sorry, that was poor timing.
There's a little checkered flag that they wave.
Beth, what do you
I'll jump in here to fill in for Steve.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we'll wait off to the side until the Hercules has to be secured on deck, and we need the hydraulics turned back on to open up the bio boxes because they come up closed. And so the team connects the ROV back to power, turns on the hydraulics, gets those open, and then lets us know that we get the all clear to come in and get the samples.
Yes, that's it.
Steve, do you have like the first sample that you always go to, or is it change?
Depends on what's most temperature sensitive. Starting with biology. Well, first starting with the things that are probably most unprotected. So going for water, for example, if it's temperature sensitive, for eDNA or for UV sensitive, go for those samples first so you can get them in the lab, put them to sleep so that they can at least get chilled or stay cold. and then a lot of the large biology after that, starting with the corals first because they will typically tend to start to turn fastest. They get stressed and they produce a lot of mucus. So getting those out of the boxes is important into the cold seawater or into the fridge. Sponges typically after that, and then after that, rocks.
Yeah, my order is a little different because I want the microbes on the rocks, and once the bio boxes are open, any water dripping down from the ROV into the baths can potentially be problematic. So as soon as those bio boxes are open, try to get those samples out and into cold water and into the lab, and then also getting the water samples. But so the rocks don't wait to last for me. Are you happy with our ascent rate, Rennie?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I think we'll be all right.
Has anybody checked the weather lately? Are we still expecting poor conditions in a few days?
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
Yes, I have the weather up here. It looks like we'll have some high swell. I have it up on HiPAC plan actually, if you want to take a look. We're coming up at midnight here. If we go in at 4, which is the plan,
Yeah.
we're not limited by transit time. It's a pretty close location on the same seamount.
Right.
The winds come up a bit, but should be within threshold. It's mainly just how the swell and waves are stacked because our swell is about 2 meters, and then it starts to, by the time around when we would be recovering, it's picking up to like 2.5, which is starting to be the edge of the box. And then there's waves on top of that of 2.5 meters.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna talk with Emil and Mark and see if we assess at 4 a.m. and we're safe to go in. We just have to know that we've got to keep an eye on it in the afternoon.
Okay. And then it's going to get progressively worse to prevent us from getting in?
The waves and the swell tomorrow afternoon through probably Thursday morning will be.
Okay.
If it is what it says they are, it seems like that would be preventative, or that would prevent us from going.
Yeah.
So the thought is to go south and map another couple passes along the seamount chain that we mapped on the way up.
Yep.
And have that data, which we were going to have to collect anyway.
Okay.
It's just a matter of mainly how the swell feels.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can also like feel a bit on the ship. We're a bit right now rolling a bit. We're kind of bound by to face into that wind as it approaches 15 knots and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have to be facing into that, and that's a bit opposed to the swell.
Right. Coming on the
that
beam.
can also be the forces have to be cooperative in their direction as well, because otherwise we don't want Argus to be ping-ponging on launch or recovery, and also puts a lot of roll into getting Herc back on deck and all that.
And it's just not comfortable for any of the humans on board.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we've got a comment or a question in the chat. Thanks for sending your observations in. And one of the questions was, how sure are we that there's probably a carbonate cap on the top of the geos? Yeah, how sure are we of that? I would say that's a pretty good guess, considering that geos are usually they are indications that that volcano has been above the surface to erode, and then we know that corals, stony corals, form on them as long as the rate of subduction of the not subduction but subsidence can allow those corals to keep up. And so for this region, that's a reasonable assumption. And we shouldn't be below the carbonate compensation depth too much so that that all would disappear. So yeah, there's probably still some carbonate up there. Anything you'd like to add to that, Steve?
No.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But thanks for the question.
You can see it in the bathymetry too. Yeah, volcanoes are rarely flat on top. They just don't stop flat. So there's some other process going on, and we can see that in the bathymetry as we go over it with the multibeam. You can make out terracing, for example, in some cases.
Right.
Which is indicative of changes in sea level stand over time.
Yeah.
And how that influences erosion of the carbonate reef. Yeah.
Rennie, can you zoom out on HYPACK again so that we could see the full seamount? And Jeff, would you mind putting that up on channel 3? Just so our audience at home can be reminded of kind of the shape of this seamount that we're diving on.
Yeah, I think maybe this comment stems from the expectation that they were going to see some coral skeletons, but we weren't really necessarily good.
You mean like in the, sometimes you can see coral, like sclerotinian coral heads inside of the seamount side?
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw that
Thank you, Rennie.
recently somewhere. Where did we see that?
You can probably see what is bothering me. Now we will take care of that on the way out.
Yep, right. There's a little bit of a gap in the data.
But I actually don't know if we'll cover it all in one pass because it
gets a little wide.
A little shallow on the geo. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, but this view again shows you that kind of flat top terrace of this volcanic edifice. So, whereas other seamounts that we have been visiting have not, like the seamount we were on yesterday, the unnamed seamount over there to the east is did not have that kind of structure.
Still a couple of interesting crater-like crater-like features here on this one, like this right here.
Yeah, potentially lots of slides for sure. Off to the side. Yeah, and then those features, again, could still be covered in coral, but they still record.
During our 2019 expedition in the Line Islands, actually, we did dive a site, or at least we mapped it. Maybe we didn't dive it. But we found some interesting, what are like called parasitic cones coming up through the carbonate caps of some guyots. So, you know, where volcano has been capped by carbonate, right? But some other volcanic source has like punched through the carbonate cap and left these little parasitic volcanic cones on top of carbonate. That was kind of neat. I've never heard of that before. But I suppose if you have, this is why the Pacific Plate is so complex. You have a lot of different hotspot volcanic forces going through this, these historically created seamounts over a long period of time. Eventually, you're going to have punch through places where you've already had volcanism and subsidence.
Oh, I see. Sorry. This viewer was not interested in coral embedded in the side rock, but more interested in coral rubble, possibly even with the ferromanganese crusting.
Yep, we also see that too. Depends on what depth you're at. So we see, if we're looking for coral rubble, we're probably talking about depths that are between 600 and 1,000 meters. That's kind of the sweet spot in the central and equatorial North Pacific, where you have stony coral and deep water stony corals that produce lots and lots and lots of coral rubble on the slopes. Sometimes, depending on how fresh the material is, it can, when it falls down slope, it accumulates, and if it's older material over time, it'll acquire a dark patina, kind of reminiscent of these iron manganese crusts. But there's a lot of fresh material too at the same time that is home for other animals, other organisms, and in some cases can act as settlement sites for coral larvae. A lot of these sites, these deep water reefs, deep water scleractinians that produce these reef-like rubble fields are actually just a couple of different species. We have Anolepsemia, usually Anolepsemia rostrata, and Madrepora oculata. Those two are the predominant deep water stony corals that we might find in this area. But our dives recently have been very, very deep to see them. So if we ever get up into that depth range, close to 1,000 meters or 1,100 meters even, we might start to see that kind of rubble field.
Thank you. Where did we land on our watch name?
We did not land.
We're still ascending?
Yes.
1,300 meters.
Front row, did you have ideas on a watch name?
I got Gio on the mind now. Can't think of anything that makes that funny.
Yeah, me neither.
Oops.
I want to use that
Oh,
Tron.
we've still got
thing.
time.
Oh, yeah,
We don't have to necessarily decide on this.
What's that?
We don't necessarily have to decide in this shift.
We should decide on a daytime shift when we're a little more conscious.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
It could be a retroactive name.
It's true. We
at the
still
end
have.
of the cruise.
We could change our name every shift if we wanted to.
Oh, I like that.
There are no rules to this game.
Mo names,
And it
mo
makes me
better.
uncomfortable.
Well, we quickly adapted to the rules of duty or leisure.
That's right.
That's true.
That's a good watch name, Duty or Leisure.
Duty or leisure. Ooh, Jake.
There we go.
That's a contender.
I hope our audience at home is writing these ideas down. I'm not.
Could be like our crest, duty and leisure, you know. That's like a nice,
Oh.
it's like a work. And then a recliner. I'll draw it out.
Can we have a lightning bolt in there? I
Yeah,
like lightning bolts.
There should be a
and
lightning bolt.
insignias,
That's what divides the two.
I think we've decided on our name, have we? Already designing the logo.
Yeah.
A crest, no less.
So for the front row, just letting you know that I've been communicating offline with a scientific colleague, and it does seem that there's support for that idea that what we saw was a beaked whale fossil.